in hand.
I don't know why, but it made me log back in, and like I don't know. It's like it cleared my cache too. That's how that works, right?
Good. I'm glad. To inconvenience you in some mild way. Buddy, I'm telling you.
How you doing,
Man,
buddy?
I'll be honest with you. I've got just no patience for technology. I'll be honest with you. Like
I understand.
The absolute. Oh yeah, I know you understand.
I know. Yeah,
the
there's still a reason why I'm not using my better camera for this setup. The camera that I bought
genuinely don't. You are the only
goddamn
person in history.
So I do think I figured out what is going on, and I think it's a computer issue and not a camera issue. So it's not your fault. Don't worry.
No, I know it. Well, I knew that. I mean, it can't be the fault of perfection.
Right.
So
not at all.
Now we got to wait for our commanding audience of 12 people to return because you showed up late.
I showed up. When do we start, Josiah? When do we start?
We start at 1, but we can't actually start at 1. You goof. We got to show up like 10 minutes early so we can get everything set up. It's okay. I need you.
I'm just not a professional.
I know. That's okay. Dan, what you lack in professional qualities, you make up for in intellect, philosophical rigor, and eye candy.
That's true.
Okay.
I do got that eye candy working for me.
That's true. You stop it. Chatula, Subri, what's up? Okay, so
I'll show up 10 minutes early from here on out. I apologize.
It's good. Yeah, I appreciate it. Apology. I don't say accepted, but I am considering accepting your apology.
There you go.
So this stream is going to be relatively short. We're going to each cover like one thing, and so I got thinking about it because like there is a bunch going on in the world of politics this week. Like I even recorded videos for the channel on the weekend. I normally don't do that. I try to have at least something of a life on the weekend. It's not much of one,
right?
It's there,
but you didn't really have anything going on, so you're like, might as well make videos.
Well, no, I did, but the thing is, there were just so many videos to do. Like I had to make a sacrifice, and so there's like, there's that. I don't know if it's TPUSA, that thing's going on.
Yeah.
There's a conference hosted by The Blaze that Tucker Carlson was at where he interviewed everyone in the primaries. Chris Christie's done like 2 big interviews with Pierce Morgan, so he's probably going to get into the mid single digits in terms of favorability with the Republican Party. Chris Christie, he's probably thinking he might even get to 7%.
Crazy.
There was the fact that
numbers.
President Biden canceled, I think it was $39 billion worth of student loans. But like nothing that you could probably spend 30 minutes on. I settled for. So we're going to torture ourselves when it's my turn.
Okay.
Which is the Tucker Carlson DeSantis interview.
Jesus
which
Christ.
I've not seen, but I imagine it's just like cringe manifest,
Yeah, I mean, Ronnie, Meatball Ron. I love that nickname, by the way. I don't want to give Trump too much credit. Well, I'll give Trump credit on his nicknames and his bullying. He does a great job of bullying. He's a great bully. Meatball Ron is a fantastic.
He just bullies the wrong people. I mean,
well, I think Meatball Ron is a good. I mean, I appreciate him attacking Ron DeSantis.
Yeah, no. When he bullies other Republicans, that's good. That's the way it should be. But then he bullies, disabled reporters and progressives and minorities
of course.
And disenfranchised groups. Yeah,
no, of course.
That's the problem. If he would just like keep his focus, like his bullying instincts towards those who deserve it, Republican leaders, I'm with you. I'd be for it. But he also doesn't bully Vladimir Putin or President or Xi Jinping.
Why would that be?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I don't know. That's a weird question. I don't know why he, like all these authoritarian fascists around the world, he doesn't seem to be really critical of. Really just like kind of the institutional Republicans. I don't know why that would be.
Do you think he might like admire them or like maybe want to emulate
Donald Trump?
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Want to be like an authoritarian? I have no idea.
I don't know. Let's something to chew on.
Well,
but while we
let me ponder that, and we'll go to you first. The Sound of Freedom. I had no idea what this movie was about, except when I was pulling up a thingy here on Wikipedia, I saw that Jim Caviezel was in it. I'm like, oh, Caviezel! I remember him from both The Passion of the Christ and Person of Interest. Person of Interest being one of my favorite TV shows ever. So what's going on here? What
Yeah, are you
is
not? So you're
Jim
not
doing
familiar with
something
this at all?
cringe?
So I
No.
actually didn't know that he was in Person of Interest. I didn't really know him as a serious actor. I knew him from a bunch of QAnon conferences that he came to, where he said everyone needs to watch Sound of Freedom because this is one of the most. Here, let me start with this. Let me start with this.
And if you
So
have
my
any
girlfriend,
links you want
you've
me to share, just send them to me and I'll do it. Like,
yes, actually, yes, there is an incredible article. 1 second.
did you write it? Did you write that incredible article?
No.
Probably not. You're not literate, but if you were,
Let's do this. Sorry, I'm so unprofessional.
you are. I'm used to it.
Here we go. Here we go. This. Okay, I'm gonna Discord this to
No,
you.
drop it in private chat here on Restream,
Okay, my bad. My bad.
please.
There you go.
That's your Pornhub link.
Oh, my bad. Here, let me do this one. There you go.
Okay. You want me to pull this
There
up?
you go. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's not right now. Not right now.
Okay.
Hold on.
You tell you tell me when you're ready.
He is a Q crazy. Yeah. So here, so some background. Let's go through some background. So basically, you have met my girlfriend.
I have.
Her name is. I don't actually know if she wants me to say her name, so
That's
I'm not going to
okay.
say her name. But
Just gonna
Josiah
call her
can
Sherbs.
acknowledge that she is in fact a real person.
She is.
A lot of people
And
wouldn't believe it.
way out of his league, much cooler than he is, much smarter than he is.
Yes.
Better
So
personality.
she got
Wait,
her
are we not talking about that? Because
no,
we
we
not?
actually are.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
So she got her master's in George Washington University. Her master's was in international development, specifically in South America, and she did her master's on human trafficking. So she went down. She did her master's like all talking to local enforcement, and kind of like this prevailing sentiment that was like constantly being thrown around was like, oh, Operation Underground Railroad has done so much harm to what we're trying to do here. Okay. If you haven't heard of
Clarify what's Operation. Okay.
yeah, if you haven't heard of Operation Underground Railroad, basically it's started by this man. His name is Tim Ballard. You might actually recognize him as one of the head figures for CPUSA. He's going to that event pretty.
You mean TPUSA, the Charlie Kirk thing?
What did I say?
Turning Point CPUSA.
Oh no, TPUSA. Yeah, that TPUSA event. So Tim Ballard, he is a former Homeland Security agent, I believe, and he basically got fed up with the system, and he was like, "Hey, all of these institutions, they don't really help all of these children who are being trafficked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go down to Colombia on my own dime, and I'm going to save these girls." Now that sounds like a really positive, really heroic thing. So he goes down there, and he brings basically a film crew and a bunch of journalists with him. And they have a bunch of sting operations where they basically they have a bunch of girls, they buy a bunch of girls and then save them, free them. Sounds really positive, right? And that's how it's always been marketed, is this guy is going down to Colombia and saving these kids. But what ends up happening is they don't really focus on the aftercare, because the aftercare doesn't really get a lot of clicks and a lot of really like cool coverage. It's much cooler to show like a YouTube film crew of like him coming in with like a goddamn machine gun and just like pulling all these girls to safety and then like putting them over his shoulder and then running away to freedom. And then he basically just brings them to a shelter, but because he has no understanding of how the organizations work here, a lot of the times these girls are addicted to drugs, or their families are threatened if they don't return after a certain time period. Like there's a lot of like motivators to bring them back, and they're also like they are unfortunately providing food and shelter much more so than they would otherwise. There's kind of a supply and demand here, where these girls are completely open to the elements, and they come here because at least someone is feeding them. Obviously not trying to give them credit, but I'm just saying that there is a motivation for them to return. And all 26 girls ended up returning to this incredible hostile environment. And the people in charge were like, oh shit, people are onto us. We need to duck our heads back into the sand. And all of the law enforcement who's trying to actually disrupt these communities get completely fucked because suddenly these people know that they're onto them. So I linked an article if you want to show it now.
Before we unpack it, real quick.
Yeah.
So Subri says, no way he's a Q crazy, which I think you addressed. Then she says, oh, the guy who's lying saying that there's a lot of people who aren't stopping traffickers. That is the guy you're talking about, Tim Ballard, right?
Yeah, the guy's lying saying that there's a lot of people who aren't stopping. Yeah. So he's basically saying that these institutions aren't doing what they can, which the reality when it comes to stopping human trafficking is you really have to disrupt the system and go and gather a lot of intelligence on why exactly they're staying there, what like all of this sort of information, and then actually disrupt them after like years of work. And that can be really frustrating, right? You basically have to interact with these girls knowing that you can't really save them so that you can save them a few years later down the line. And that is an incredibly frustrating and harrowing experience. So I empathize a lot with Tim Ballard where he's like, oh, these people aren't fucking doing enough. Let's just save these girls. But then there's a reason why they don't do that, right? There's a reason why you don't just pull them from the environment and say, oh, perfect. Wipe your hands clean. Now we did it. They will return to the same experience, or they will be isolated from their family, isolated from their community. You have to disrupt them in very targeted and specific ways that require a lot more information and expertise than Tim Ballard has at all. He basically just goes in guns wheeling. So this article was written by Meg Conley, who is one of the journalists, who is basically she was one of the journalists that Tim asked her to go on to the raid with. And
Tim asked her, or she asked Tim?
Tim asked her. Tim
if she would join the raid.
To join the raid so that she could document what he did. Because he's really interested in like publicity, if that makes sense. So if we scroll down, there's a few lines in here that like really just kind of freak me out. There's
I do want to read the intro real quick. I'd never heard of Operation Underground Railroad when its founder, Tim Ballard, called me suddenly in the summer of 2014. A former Department of Homeland Security special agent, Ballard said our had a child trafficking sting planned for the Dominican Republic, and he wanted me to come along to document it. Ballard explained the mission of the organization to me like this. Children in other countries were being trafficked, local governments were overwhelmed or complicit, and the U.S. government was unwilling to jeopardize diplomatic relationships to rescue local underage victims. Ballard said he knew how to rescue these kids. He told me he'd been called to this work by God. And she apparently Mormon. Just
which
tell
is
me when to stop.
Yeah, no worries. I am also Mormon. Me and my girlfriend met at BYU, so we're very, very familiar with this work. My girlfriend's family actually is very like interested. Like they keep buying a bunch of tickets and getting a bunch of people to go and see the movie. So the movie basically just glorifies the actions. And Tim Ballard is played by Jim. What's his name? Caviezel.
Jim Caviezel.
Caviezel. That's how you pronounce it. Gotcha. So
Jaime Caviezel.
Jaime Caviezel, exactly. So if you scroll down just a little bit,
sure,
where it says, but soon Ballard's aggressive sureness, if we want to scroll down there. So basically, this is just documenting how scary it was. Yeah. Basically, so through this article, she says, I was literally like right next to the guns and I had no idea. Yeah, go ahead and read this article.
So bassoon, Ballard's aggressive sureness began to scare me. Ann Gallagher, whom the U.S. State Department called the leading global expert on the international law and human trafficking, published an essay critical of Our's tactics. She argued its raids showed an alarming lack of understanding about how sophisticated criminal trafficking networks must be approached and dismantled, and called Our supporters arrogant, unethical, and illegal. Ballard sent the article to me and called her a bitch. Then he asked me to write a rebuttal. Ballard did not respond to detailed questions about his comments. I had nothing of worth to say in response to a woman who dedicated her life to this work. How could he think I did? I didn't write the piece.
Yeah, so a lot of it is basically every expert saying, please don't do this. You are traumatizing these kids by bringing in a lot of like hope into their lives just to sort of like leave them stranded. It causes them to distrust authorities when they're trying to help. And you are essentially not disrupting any systemic issues, but attempting to do so, and then just causing all of these essential pimps to realize that people are on their tracks, and then doing a better job of covering their tracks. So it's just about a strict harm to be caused. And you could see why this kind of picked up through like QAnon crowds, where they're like, oh, gotcha, this man is actually doing the work to save human trafficking, or like kids who are being human trafficked. My girlfriend made a bunch of points that like there's a lot of ways that you can help with
Before
human
we
trafficking. Yeah.
unpack that, just to clarify, so I'll be honest with you, this story, like I'm familiar with Jim Caviezel. Like I said, Person of Interest was one of my favorite shows. Obviously I was familiar. Like he really came into popular consciousness when he portrayed Jesus Christ in The Passion of the
Right. And
Christ
Passion
back
of
in like
Christ. Right.
2004. Um, but besides that, I hadn't seen much of I mean, I've seen the I thought it was Sound of Silence at first, but the Sound of Freedom trending on Twitter.
Hmm.
And obviously I saw some like right-wing commentators, people like Ben Shapiro, and I think Ron DeSantis weighed in on it as well. I think as a matter of fact, President Trump, I think, endorsed the movie or something like that. So I
Yeah.
assumed like, it's probably a shit movie. But
Sure.
I didn't know anything about this. So the relationship with QAnon, of course, being a very disturbingly popular conspiracy theory, like it's being documented. There's estimates that to indicate that it's tens of millions of strong in terms of its adherence, depending on
Hmm.
what poll question you ask. And basically, the sent is that there's this anonymous prophet named Q, and he espouses that the Democratic Party, and again, you correct me if I'm wrong, is a cabal, literally, not hyperbole, literally a cabal of Satan worshiping child blood pedophiles, and that Donald Trump is like a messianic figure who is brought forth to disrupt this shadowy cabal and save the future and save children and so on and so forth. That's
Yeah.
that's what you mean, right?
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. If you guys remember Hillary Clinton's emails, a lot of people did some sifting through Hillary Clinton's emails and said, "Whoa, Hillary Clinton keeps mentioning that she wants to go to this pizza place with her workers or with her employees. Obviously, this is just code for wanting to have sex with children." And we're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,
And that's
whoa."
born, right?
Yeah, and that's Pizzagate. So literally, someone went up and shot that the pizza joint that Hillary Clinton went to. And obviously, did not find any kids there, but that did not stop the brunt of the movement. There is factions within Q where some of them have dismissed Donald Trump. A relative few of them, though, a lot of them believe that Donald Trump is currently in power and that Joe Biden is just a puppet, a literal puppet or an alien. It's all, yeah. JFK Jr. is involved. It's a conspiracy theory that just drives you up your up your head.
I'll also throw in there that this QAnon has adherents and sympathizers who are sitting members of Congress, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's how
Correct.
dangerous this is.
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
can't remember the guy's name. I don't know if it's Will Stencil or somebody like that. There is a guy who has written a book about QAnon. He did an interview. I think it was on the Majority Report with Sam Cedar just a couple of days ago. I follow him on Twitter. And yeah, depending on the poll questions which are asked, I mean, because of course, believe it or not, there's like a beliefs within the Q movement, and depending like the responsiveness rate, like some of the responses to poll questions related to Q beliefs indicate that it's like anywhere from 10 to 25% of the Republican Party believe some of QAnon's
Yeah.
tenets. That is dangerous, and again, that's tens of millions of people. Incredibly
Yeah.
dangerous. I'm sorry, so just want to
Gunsmoke.
clarify that.
No, yeah, and Gunsmoke says, isn't JFK Jr. somehow involved as well? Basically JFK Jr. died, I think like 20 years ago. I think a little bit 25 years ago. And QAnon believers believe that was just like a cover up, and he's secretly just lying in the wake, and he will be Donald Trump's running mate.
Oh, so they're
I
not
don't know
talking
how
about
exactly.
RFK Jr. They're not talking
Nope.
about Robert.
JFK
Oh, they're
Jr.,
talking.
the one who died.
Oh, no
Yep.
kidding.
He is alive, according to these people. So basically, there's a lot of conspiracies, and Jim, I keep Caviezel. Jim Caviezel? Am I saying that
Jim
right?
Caviezel. No, Jim Caviezel.
Caviezel. I need to
Jim
write that down.
Caviezel. That's going to be his
Legitimately,
new nickname. Jim Caviezel was when he was a
Yeah.
respected, incredible actor. Now he's Jim
Now he's John
Caviezel. He's a meme
Caviezel.
of
Yeah.
himself. So go on about Jim
Caviezel.
Caviezel.
Yeah, Caviezel. He's basically attended a bunch of these conferences saying, "Hey, you got to check out this new movie that I'm in. It's called Sound of Freedom, and it's basically just, there's a lot of controversy around him because endorse some elements of the QAnon theory here during a remote appearance.
Oh my God,
that's what I was referring to. The appearance was to promote the film Sound of Freedom, centering on anti-human trafficking activist Tim Ballard.
Oh my God, he believes in the adrenochrome thing.
Yep.
That like
so just so you're aware, a lot of this. So adrenochrome is what they believe to be in the brains of kids, and I believe they extract it after they kill them so that they can pump it into their blood and remain young. I believe that is the theory, but like, it's hard to say because, one, I don't interact with these circles that much. I've definitely heard these theories well enough. I had an aunt who was obsessed with this, actually.
Oh God.
Yeah, not just my aunt, my cousin, I've got quite a bit of extended family who has come to me and been like, "You don't understand."
I think you need to worry about that particular branch on the family tree. If that's the case, my man. I mean, I would
easily.
I would be vigilant.
It's all the same branch too.
Yeah.
So no, I had an aunt who was obsessed with this. Like, she was so convinced that all of this stuff. So, but it's also hard to say because there's a lot of like differing theories. Like, if you ask people what adrenochrome actually does, some people will say it'll make you young. Some people say that it'll turn you into an alien. Like,
and to be clear, adrenochrome is an actual chemical compound. It is found within the body. I think it's created by adrenaline, as a matter of fact. But yeah, like the idea is like they're like vampirically extracting it and subsuming them. I'm thinking to myself, let's say you're inclined to believe it. Have you seen the members of the Democratic Party? They're not young. I mean, like, come on, is Joe Biden really a member?
Well, that's not. Really... Here's where you fool.
Or like Nancy Pelosi.
Fool. No, oh my gosh,
Leahy, Dick Durbin.
Josiah, you don't understand anything. Now, obviously,
okay.
Joe Biden has to maintain appearances that he still looks like 80 years old because he was born 80 years ago. But we all know that is a mask, where that is an old wrinkled face. And behind that, when he takes off his mask, he is actually a younger version where he looks like he's...
That's Dark version. Brandon, so isn't it? Where he's like super fit and like he's buff as hell. Okay.
Exactly. And people take a bunch of pictures of like random people on the street that vaguely look like Biden in the 80s and been like, see, we found him. Like, this is who he is mask off.
This is insane.
It is some crazy stuff, and it's absolutely absurd. Like, it's so easy for me to believe that. I totally understand that some people believe this, right? Like, I have a cousin who's a little bit of a flat earther. I understand that there's
what is going on in the Staxioms family? Listen, in House Staxioms, what is going on here? He's like, I got an aunt who believes in QAnon. I've got a cousin who thinks the earth is flat. I can't wait till you tell me you've got like a great uncle who believes in, I don't know, Santa Claus or something. Like, what is going on, man?
I have a niece who believes in Santa Claus. She's 6.
She's 32. And before you go on, address some of these comments that are directed to you. So apparently, Tim Pool, read this one from Gunsmoke.
Tim Pool keeps raving about this movie, and he somehow claims he doesn't support QAnon conspiracy. The problem is that this isn't directly linked to QAnon. It's just that the actors and basically everyone who's supporting this movie keeps pointing to the QAnon crowd saying, see, look, this is the movie to watch. It's not dangerous because it's necessarily like tied to the QAnon conspiracy. They're just very, very adjacent. It's like a Venn diagram that's like very close to a circle, if that makes sense. So it really leaves people to be like, hey, look, this isn't about QAnon. The movie just addressed trafficking in Colombia, but they do it in the most unethical way. And it's been targeted completely towards QAnon crowds who are completely distrustful of institutions and willing to believe that authorities are basically just letting these girls being taken advantage of because they benefit somehow from it. It's like lock in step with their belief. So they're just tied together in ways that are so obvious, but it's so easy for you to just be like, hey, look, it gives you the, what's the term for like, you can always back off and say, I didn't know. It gives you the
plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability. Thank you. Gives you plausible deniability. So Tim Pool would say that, right? That like, hey, there's nothing explicitly about that in this movie.
Do you think Tim Pool's being dishonest about it? Or do you think Tim Pool's like that?
I don't
So
believe
wait a
that
minute. So
Tim Pool is
wait a minute. Just to clarify, there's
yeah,
nothing in the plot in terms of the narrative and characters that has a direct link to Q,
correct.
right?
Correct.
There's nothing in the plot about how Democrats are a shadowy cabal of satanic pedophiles or anything like that.
Correct.
It's
But
more
it
of a
is in the
meta
movie.
connection. Oh,
Yes,
it is?
it is in the it well, what is in the movie is that you can't essentially trust institutions because they're allowing this to occur. Like there is
Gotcha.
a not so subtle hint that the reason these girls are being trafficked is because this is being allowed on a deeply, deeply, deeply systemic issue, and that this goes so much further than, uh,
So
like
it indicates
this goes so much further than just
the
Colombia.
plot hints at a level of conspiracism within the U.S.
Yes,
and world governments. Gotcha. But it doesn't, again,
yes,
directly
yeah.
reference
It's
Q.
like it's a little shifty, and it gives a lot of
Mhm.
plausible deniability. So I don't believe that Tim Pool, um, I don't believe that Tim Pool is a QAnoner. I think that he's just sort of on
Well,
that
that's right.
edge
'Cause
case where
you're
he's
a
like
big
kind of
fan of
interested
his,
in
if
it.
I remember.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt because I think Tim Pool's kind of dope, actually.
I
Yeah.
actually don't. His positions are on you. I would, but honestly, Stacks, I would not be surprised if there are videos in which Tim Pool gestures broadly towards Q with this. I mean, he does it with Tucker Carlson, with Carrie Lake, and Marjorie Taylor Greene and
Mhm.
Lauren Boebert. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't follow him.
No, I wouldn't be
I'm sure
surprised
he's never
either.
come out, but I'm sure he does
I
the
would be
just asking questions thing. Like,
I would be
how do
deeply
we know? How
surprised
do we
if
not
he
know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I would be deeply
Yeah,
surprised if he said something about like adrenochrome, like that extreme. But his crowd, he also like he's got his two like conspiracy riddled brains who just sort of like uh he podcasts together with, and I wouldn't be
yeah.
surprised if they said it. So it's like it's definitely in the same circle. He's probably like I don't want to speculate too much on this on where exactly Tim Pool stands on all of this, but my girlfriend made a couple of really good points about how to like what you can do to actually stop human trafficking. And she was like, look, one of the biggest, like the primary things that actually happen with human trafficking isn't fun or cool or sexy or like like it's basically just kids who are being brought through the border through migrant families and they get taken advantage of because they're like in America, they're just sort of allowed to pick fruit for their dad who works for the company. Like there's a lot of that's considered human trafficking, right? That like kids are working for fields right now in America, but they're undocumented, so it's really hard to find them. There's also
Sure.
the human trafficking of like sweatshops of like fast fashion. Like there, so basically, like there are ways that we can stop this, but they're not as fun or cool as like going to a movie with your friends and feeling like you're part of like a conspiracy. It's being careful of where you buy fabrics and not throwing them out as often, and being supportive of asylum laws in like over the border. Like, but the thing is that doesn't really resonate with this crowd because for some reason this is also tied into like border security without acknowledging the fact that when these kids are like trying to run away from these harmful situations, they're usually going to the United States for asylum, which surprise, surprise, some administrations have blocked, which QAnoners are generally in support of. So it's a lot
Yeah,
of
so it's
like,
almost like they support actions which exacerbate the issue of human trafficking. QAnoners and conservatives, well, I shouldn't say every conservative,
yeah.
obviously, like
And
this
I,
particular crowd, they support policies which make the situation worse materially.
yeah, and I think a lot of this comes from an ignorance or a want for noticing that bad things are occurring in the world and wanting to have some person to point the finger at, if that makes sense, instead of like a larger body of like complex workings that sort of like enables this situation. And it's a lot easier for you to say we just need a superhero. We need a Tim Ballard to come in and save the day for everyone. And it's a lot harder to grapple with the fact that you might be complicit in these sort of systems as well. That there are things that you can do to sort of change this system. That you can that like a lot of American consumerism does push a lot of these human trafficking, where we have this huge demand for really fast fashion and pushing t-shirts to be made as quickly as humanly possible because they're going to get thrown away. So you just have like 10-year-olds being thrown at a into a factory that gets shipped over to here. And there are ways that you can push it, but it's not. It's a lot easier to point fingers at someone else instead of yourself, if that makes sense. So I really
it's also
understand.
seems to be. I was going to say not just like in terms of like supporting the movie and thinking you're fighting human trafficking this way, but the more I read about it, it's also the actions within the movie don't seem to be the most effective way of combating human trafficking either, because it seems to be celebrating like a short term, raid style, just kick in the door, threaten violence,
which is,
and that feels good because that's
it
part
feels
of
good.
that,
Exactly.
yeah,
It feels good.
yeah.
And there is kind of a disturbing trend as well with Operation Underground Railroad. There's a lot more controversy that's sort of baked into this that I can get into, but a huge aspect of it is that you can essentially pay like $20,000 or something to just watch this raid unfold, to just like sort of like walk in and just sort of watch them be saved. And it really like contributes a lot to this like savior complex, like, oh, I can spend money and actually watch my money get unfolded. And it's super dangerous and super unethical to just have some random fucking rich person there while we're
Yeah, to your point,
conducting
can I
these raids.
read this
It's so,
part?
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, to your point. So from the article that Stax brought up, the TV show, apparently like Ballard tried to pitch this as a TV show.
Yeah,
Vice recently investigated a few of Ballard's stories and found a pattern of image burnishing and mythology building, a series of exaggerations that are, in the get quite misleading, and as detailed disturbingly amateurish operations like the one that Conley attended. The TV show never got picked up, but Our made a video of the raid I went on and posted it to its YouTube channel. It's still there. You can see the terrified housekeeper when she opens the door to a man with a gun, me lying on the floor while police pace around me, and Ballard winking at the camera. The video ends with the line 20 liberated, 8 traffickers arrested, and I just included it here. I was told 2 of the children had been trafficked for the time that day. It didn't seem to occur to Our may have created a demand. After the sting, I asked people on the jump team where the 26 kids were taken. I was given only vague answers. Aftercare wasn't really their focus, I was told, but they partnered with people who did it well. I found out what really happened from a foreign policy report. In 2014, after Our's first operation in the Dominican Republic, a local organization called the National Council for Children and Adolescents quickly discovered it didn't have the capacity the 26 girls rescued. They were released in less than a week. Some testified, the articles reported. The local organization lost all those kids in 2014 got from us was a soda and a swim, and Ballard came out ahead in the deal. Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's really disturbing, honestly. And there's it's being perpetuated by people who I do think mean this in good faith, where they sort of see this operation and they're like this movie that's talking about these issues. And there's so yeah, I reacted to this TikTok kind of recently with someone who has over 1 million followers, and he and I chatted like afterward, and it seems like he had good intentions, but basically he was like, yeah, Disney had the rights to this deal but didn't want to push it forward, and all of these like huge production companies didn't have like had the ability to make this movie because they had all the footage. They just had to like release it with their name attached to it, and they didn't want to. And what they pushed was like, oh, obviously there's child traffickers on Disney, and it's like, okay, well, maybe it's actually that anytime they contact any expert or activist about this issue, they plead with them to say, please don't release this movie. And they had to turn to Angel Studios, which is I don't know if you're familiar with VidAngel. It's really popular here in Utah. So like every Mormon is familiar with VidAngel. It's basically like a streaming service that takes videos and like edits like scenes out so you can watch a rated R movie without like showing butts or something like that. Super
It's rated
popular
G
with like,
for God.
yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So
it's rated
super
PG
popular
for
here.
praise God. That's what it's going to be, rated PG
There
for
you
praise
go.
God. Yeah.
There. Did you make
Yeah.
that up on the fly?
I listen. I occasionally
That
have my
was
moments
impressive.
of cleverness.
That was
Thank you.
impressive. Yeah.
You want to hear my Jordan Peterson impression?
I swear to God.
No, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so they basically had to be greenlit by a production studio that didn't have the resources because they didn't care to ask any like any activist or expert on the topic. So it's really easy for you to just say, oh, there's a bunch of like the reason why this had to be released by this tiny little production company is obviously because there's people who are just injecting adrenochrome into their system, like Bob Iger.
I'm surprised the Daily
like
Wire didn't, because the Daily Wire weren't they trying to get like their
studios
up off the ground? They didn't make some relationship to either like Broad or involved in the production.
I'll be honest. I would be surprised if they haven't done at least some sort of like
Arrangement.
working with Sound of Freedom. Yeah, some arrangement. Like I know it wasn't picked up by them. Like it isn't being produced by Daily Wire. It's being produced by Angel Studios. But I mean, Daily Wire. Sorry, I pulled up Daily Wire. There are 20 articles positive about Sound of Freedom.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Oh my God! It could have just been Jim Caviezel, as he's now known, just reading QAnon tweets for an hour and a half, and they would have been like, "Old hardcore vision ever seen." This is the new Martin Scorsese film, but like, Daily Wire wasn't involved in the production because Gina Carano had nothing to do with it. I didn't see her in any of the trailers for this. That goes, she wasn't involved.
Yeah,
this is crazy, man. I mean,
couldn't be that she just dissolved into outside of the public periphery because she got canceled.
She was canceled. Yeah, she was absolutely canceled by Disney. I mean, my God, or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So it sounds like Sherbs had some pretty intense thoughts about this, and from what you've described, it makes absolute sense.
Yeah, yeah. She was. Yeah, I was like watching through these videos, and she was like, "No, I actually can't. Like, I'm so upset right now. I need to go like lie down." And I'm like, "Okay,
fair enough."
Like, I'm gonna like respond to these videos, but take a breather, like because she worked with these local law enforcement. She like talked to she saw the damage unfold like personally, and it is really damaging. And if you want to know what you can do, yeah, you can do the things that I sort of mentioned. But if you have money and you don't really know where to go to, I would suggest here. Let me actually send this to so we could put a link on. 1 second, sorry. I'm gonna throw that on real quick. Because I don't want to come out as the guy who just sort of attacking the people who are trying to make the world safe. I want to say, here's how ways you can actually make the world safe. So if you have money, which a lot of these people do, who are just throwing it at Operation Underground Railroad, and you realize the flaws in the system, you can support this instead. Just how you want to put it up?
Yeah, hang on 1 second.
No, you're okay. Kind. So this it's got the feedback. I can't speak because it's got the...
Oh, it does? Hang on 1 second.
Yeah. No worries. Well, if you just go to supportkind.org.
What about now?
This is the organization. Yes, I can speak now. Thank you. So this is the organization that my girlfriend worked with specifically, who they basically talk a lot about migrants and how to accept kids who are running away from these awful situations. If you want your money to actually go to a beneficial source or an organization that's a nonprofit, crazy that's the expectation that we have right now for how to help these kids, and not just glorifying abuse and like hero symptoms. This is a really cool organization that my girlfriend has personally worked with, like has a lot of experts and makes sure that kids' rights are protected as they migrate alone in search of safety. So that's really what they focus on is how do we take care of that aftercare of people.
We envision a world in which children's rights and well-being are protected as they migrate alone in search of safety. We will achieve our vision by ensuring that no child appears in immigration court without high-quality legal representation, advancing laws, policies, and practices that ensure children's protection and uphold their right to due process and fundamental fairness, and promoting in countries of origin, transit, and destination durable solutions to child migration that are grounded in the best interests of child and to ensure that no child is forced to involuntarily migrate. Yeah, absolutely.
You can like almost see immediately the contrast between this and I wonder if Operation Underground Railroad has like a you just kind of want to compare this like as a foil.
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up right here too.
Well, it kind of looks. It doesn't look that terrible.
The first thing that popped up for me was The Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, which is their movie. Very cool. And then the next is The Fight. We lead the fight against child sex trafficking and sexual exploitation around the globe. Like it kind of turns it into like this sort of like badass superhero narrative, and I am kind of frustrated.
Yeah. Well,
also,
you also kind of see that, not to draw comparisons there, but in terms of like emphasizing that hyper masculine military warrior ethos, you see it with like law enforcement, certain like law enforcement trainers, where they talk about how they train cops to be warriors instead of protectors, right? Because it just feels more masculine, more aggressive. There's an appeal to that. And it'd be one thing if they were able to responsibly harness that ethos, this organization, but it sounds like from all the reporting they don't. It's all about these cherry picked, almost like super polished Hollywood style setups where it's about kicking in the door and kicking ass, and then what they say, aftercare is not our concern. Like almost like, I don't know if you remember, but I think it was like in the second Avengers movie, one of the plot lines or one of the elements of the second Avengers movies that the Avengers go in and kick ass and then they just leave and then they don't care about the consequences of the surrounding environment. But almost like that in the real world, where it's just to basically glorify this guy's vanity project, and there's very little regard for what happens to the children in the aftermath.
There's also a lot more. There's also there's this, which kind of freaks me the hell out, where they show Abraham Lincoln and Harriet Tubman watching over Tim Ballard as he say, like it's such a hero complex of like Jesus Christ, like and there's a reason why they bring Jim Caviezel.
Look at the posture there. I mean, that's almost like the halo over his head. It looks like the Last Supper. The
and there's a reason why they picked Jim Caviezel, who's literally known as Jesus Christ, to portray Tim Ballard, and it's worrying. There's also a ton of investigative journalism about like the funds not necessarily going to the movement, but also a bunch of like a ton of activists who are in support of the actual Underground Railroad are like, please stop associating your name with this, and he's just like, shut the fuck up.
So I want to wrap up here with some comments, and then actually we're gonna have to cut this one short. So not to be jarring, but
why is that?
Well, so you remember Jordan? You met him in Georgia, right? When he went canvassing with us. So he moved to Charlotte, where I live, and so I'm his accountability partner for the gym. And I told him I meant to tell him 2:10 to meet me at 2:10. I told him 1:10 instead. And so he's
for a half hour now,
like a half hour from now, because we're already 43 minutes into the stream. We were supposed to do like them cut it. Remember, we're going to.
Isn't it 1:45 at your time?
Yes, but we started at 1. Remember, because we were going to cut it by 30 minutes today anyway, and just do 2 stories, 30 minutes apiece.
Sure.
And we're already 45 minutes into yours. And in 2:10, I told him 1:10, and he was like, my phone's on silent. He was trying to get in the apartment, but anyway,
nice going.
So we're gonna have to save the Tucker Carlson, Ron DeSantis thing for a different time. Week. Yeah, which gives me time to like build up the cringe tolerance. Besides, this is infinitely like in terms of substance more important anyway. Like you're dealing with substantive matters of human trafficking, and also not only how it pertains to a very prominent cult within the modern right-wing zeitgeist, which has representation members of Congress, and Donald Trump was a sympathizer to Q. I doubt he believed it, but of course he was happy to weaponize it. It also speaks to longstanding issues about immigration policy too, because when we're talking about, and I'm reading these articles as you're pulling them up, I'm thinking like this is also in a roundabout way an endorsement of why the United States really needs to responsibly but heavily invest in the development of our neighboring countries, because the more these countries are able to successfully develop and the more resources at their disposal, it seems to me that would correlate with a reduction in the circumstances which lead to widespread human trafficking and child trafficking.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So some comments here for you to respond to primarily. First, Lisa says just trying to unpack the weirdness of the Q conspiracy will make a sane person's head hurt. According to them, Biden has been dead for a while, and there's an actor playing him till Trump is put back.
Correct. Yeah, I heard that from my cousin personally.
Oh
yeah.
God, there again. Oh, well, speaking of which, let me just skip to that. Stax is the black sheep of his family, according to Gunsmoke. I mean,
mostly my extended family. I think all of my like brothers are pretty reasonable when it comes to their political takes. But yeah, extended family, it goes off the rails pretty quickly.
Why don't they just say Hunter is actually Joe Biden when he's not in his old man mask? Honestly,
it's true.
I'm thinking it's because of his endowment. They don't want Joe Biden to be associated.
Jesus.
I mean, thinking about it, man. I mean, it's usually like a sign of like, in pop culture, a sign of virility and masculinity. And
oh my goodness.
Vosh coined the phrase like "hogs out for Hunter," which still to this day makes me laugh. But anyway, that's probably why. Jesus. Diana Turner says, "Good, up and running." Yeah, listen, we have technical issues because Stax was tardy and I gave a friend of mine the wrong time. This was kind of a shit show today, but the topic we've discussed is incredibly important and substantive. And I want to thank, I'm not going to give any credit to Stax, even though
give it to my girlfriend. Legitimately, give it to Sherbs.
Yeah, Sherbs and me for being like the good, like,
fair.
Yeah. I was the good Socratic foil. I was the ignorant rube who asked the questions.
True.
With a framing device. You were merely, again, the eye candy. Just kidding. The guy also was interviewed. I assume she's talking about Ballard.
That was Caviezel.
That was Jaime Caviezel. Jaime Caviezel.
Caviezel has been the real QAnoner. Tim Ballard has kind of like been like engaging with the circles. I believe that is Caviezel and not Ballard. Good. I could be wrong. I haven't seen anything about Ballard actually engaging with these conspiracies, but Caviezel has.
Fair. Daily Wire wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole in terms of production. They might have the movie on their apps. Oh, I'm such an idiot. I can't believe I did this. It's so stupid.
What?
I'm reading those text messages. He was out there for like 30 minutes trying to get in. Poor SOB. Subri says, nowadays we would watch Leave It to Beaver and call Beaver's dad cuck. People's idea of masculinity no longer includes father. It's just a whole bunch of lifting big things and putting it down. I assume you mean like it's just more like about like toxic
it's more about
masculinity.
It's more about looking masculine than actually like contributing good to the world, if that makes sense. Like it's about sort of looking that hero, that Superman. That I think that's what the comment.
Okay, Gunsmoke. All right.
True. Do you know how many times? So I made like 3 videos on this on TikTok, and that guy with 1 million followers.
I'm telling you, it's true. It's like, I'm an idiot. I meant 215. I'm so sorry.
Now he's doxing Jordan. No, I'm just.
You don't see now. That's how rumors get started, right?
Yeah,
there.
true.
Okay, but here's his address. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Technically, he's associated because that's his dad. It's his dad. It's his dad.
That is his dad. I don't know what that means.
I'm not sure either.
Technically, he is associated because that's his dad. I don't know who his dad is, but yeah, it's a hard topic to really engage in. You can also donate as much money as you can to buy free tickets to Sound of Freedom to people. And for the last 6 days, I've been going to the website and taking the free tickets and just saying that I'll show up to the movie theaters.
I've probably
scammed them out of at least $1,000 at this point. And I just keep doing it whenever I'm bored at work. Like I just pull it up. And then people go like, I'm not just the only person doing this, because I found on Twitter a bunch of people going in and saying, oh, it was sold out for the day. And they go in and they're the only people in the movie theater. So they're like, oh my God, they don't want us to watch this. There's a conspiracy happening at the top. And I'm like, I'm the conspiracy here.
Stax, that's hilarious, dude. That's funny. Right there, that he's going in, he's like, yeah, I'll take the free tickets. Yeah, I'll take the free tickets. Yeah, I'll take the free tickets. Yeah, I'll take the free tickets.
You have to like sign an honor code that you'll like actually go there, and I sign it every single time. I mark that box every single time.
No regrets either, right? Just
Yeah.
no
Oh,
regrets.
not even a little bit. No, I know. I feel confident in what I'm doing. Yeah.
That's good for you, man. That's some. I love that. That's some. I like that energy. That's good energy right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, folks, I do hate to cut this short, but I have seriously inconvenienced a real life friend, and I feel super bad about
Not
that.
like me.
No, well, no,
No.
you are a real life friend, but
No, it's
I
okay.
care considerably less about
Fair.
inconveniencing you. And
Fair.
really, the way I look at it is, it gives you more time to spend with Sherbs. So I feel like I'm doing you a favor. You know
what? I appreciate that.
But hey, thanks for taking the lead on this, dude. Like, I had no idea. I just thought it was like one of those standard, again, Daily Wire, like just trashy,
Oh no,
vaguely right wing, weird movies. And apparently, like, there's this whole lore behind it.
It's a whole thing. I've been following it
It's a
for
whole
like
ass thing.
Yeah, and it's like right in my territory. I still live in Utah. I live right next to BYU. It's just like it's so popular here. You would have no idea. Like it's all anyone could talk about. So.
You should actually go to one of the screenings with one of your 7,000 free tickets and just like make fun of it the whole time. Like
that me and Sherbs are going 100%. We've
to do that? Nice.
No, absolutely.
And
Well, we actually want to go there. Like, hey, let's like actually let's watch this movie to like make sure we can like fully understand what they're saying. But yeah, we are planning on going pretty recent. Like we're for free.
Gotcha.
We're not contributing any money to this.
Good for you.
Yeah.
She's talking about Biden and Hunter as far as technically it's associated because that's his dad. Gotcha. Talking about how Hunter, they should just.
Oh, he is
Hunter
associated.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Also, someone said, did you guys do a segment on Anna Kasparian? Gunsmoke did. We have not, but I was on a panel about Anna Kasparian kind of loosely. You should watch it. It's on Wick TV. It's about violence. If you search Wick TV, you can find it and you can see my panel.
I like how you're plugging other channels, but yeah,
correct.
Wick's
a friend of the channel. He's been
Wick's
here.
a friend of the channel. Wick and I have a love-hate relationship. And that he loves me and I also love him, but I also kind of hate him. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna convert him into
poor
like
execution.
a dyed-in-the-wool progressive. Well, no, because I didn't want to follow through on it. I don't want to hate him. You know,
I do.
Like if I were talking, say like, oh, Stax loves me, but I hate Stax, and then I would never indicate that it was a joke because I could be dead serious. I really, really, really have to go. So, guys, listen, folks.
Yeah, get out of here.
I can't believe it. Oh, dude, like
unbelievably.
I have my phone.
So
I'm telling you, I have my phone on silent, and I got like 4 missed calls and 7 text messages. I'm like, ooh, I made a mistake. But hey,
unprofessional.
All right. So we'll see you all next Sunday. Thanks, everybody.
See you.